Carlson, and I'm a counselor at Crescenta Valley High School. And this presentation is called Planning Your Future. And it's a presentation for Crescenta Valley High School 9th, 10th, and 11th graders and their families. And it's brought to you by the CV Counseling Department. And although we're presenting live tonight, September 29th, 2021, we'll be posting this on our CV website to watch again or to share with a friend or neighbor. As I said, my name's Karen Carlson, and I'm here tonight with my colleagues, Janelle Evans, our head counselor, and Janet Hong, our newest counselor. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to our assistant principal, Mr. Bill Gallimore, to get those of you situated with your translator if you need it. Mr. Gallimore?
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Mr. Gallimore here. So I'm going to turn it over to our interpreters, beginning with Ms. Sakchian. So we'll introduce our interpreters, and then I will turn on the interpretation. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Բարի երեկո հարգելի ծնողներ, շնորհակալություն, որ այսօր մասնակցում եք մեր վեբինարին։ Այն նվիրված է ձեր երեխաների ապագայի ծրագրմանը 9-ից 11-րդ դասարանցիների համար եւ նրանց ընտանիքների։ Այսօրվա ժողովը ես իրով կթարգմանեմ եւ հայերենով լսելու համար խնդրում եմ ձեր էկրանի ներքևում սեղմե գլոբուսի նշանի վրա եւ ընտրեք հայերենը, արմենիանը, որպեսզի հայերենով լսեք։ Շնորհակալություն։
네, 안녕하세요. 오늘 9학년부터 11학년 미래를 위한 준비 모임에 오신 여러분을 환영합니다. 저는 교육부에서 나온 쌤이라고 하고요. 여러분의 이해를 돕기 위해서 한국어 통역 서비스를 제공합니다. 혹시 한국어 통역이 필요하신 분은 그 밑에 보면은 글로브 모양의 지구본 모양의 그 아이콘이 있습니다. 그걸 클릭하셔가지고 그 밑에 2번에 보면은 한국어라고 코리안이라고 써 있죠. 그걸 클릭하시면은 한국어 서비스를 받을 수가 있습니다. 네, 감사합니다. Thank you. Got it.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es María Luisa Mendoza. Voy a ser la intérprete de español. Si desea escuchar esta presentación en español, puede seleccionar el globo terráqueo que está en la parte de medio de la pantalla. Seleccione español para escucharla en este idioma. Y bienvenidos a la reunión de planear para su futuro.
Thanks, folks. And Mrs. Carlson, go right ahead. The interpreter button is on. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you on behalf of the counseling department. Thank you to our 3 interpreters this evening. Tonight, we're going to be covering a wide variety of topics: how to connect with different CV staff, how to manage your time, how to get academic support, the need for balance in our hectic lives. We're going to cover personal social supports and resources. We're going to cover CV graduation requirements, post-high school plans, career topics, some Glendale College programs, college options after CV, college and university eligibility, college admission tests, financial aid, and then we'll leave you with some additional resources, some great quick read articles, and a calendar of upcoming counseling events. Mr. Gallimore? This year, CV has been divided into teams. And the idea behind that is so that we can get to know our students better and so that we can collaborate better. On Team Navy, last name, if your last name begins with B, C, D, F, G, H, J, or Z, your assistant principal is Miss Annette Babakhanian. Your counselors are Miss Karen Bomar and Miss Janelle Evans, and your attendance clerk is Miss Melba Antigua. On Team Columbia, last names beginning with A, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. Your administrator is Miguel Gonzalez, and he's fluent in Spanish. Miss Karen Carlson and Dr. Annette Harpetian are the counselors on Team Columbia, and Mrs. Medik Avanesian is the attendance clerk. And Miss Annette, Dr. Annette Harpetian is fluent in Armenian. And on Team Silver, last names beginning with E, I, K, L, M, U, V, W, X, and Y. Mr. Bill Gallimore is your assistant principal, and your counselors are Miss Lois Sheridan and Miss Janet Hong, who's fluent in Korean. Your attendance clerk is Miss Anek Downhow. Additional support staff includes our school psychologists, Lee Howell and Telma Arakelian. We can refer you to supplemental counseling through the Glendale Unified School District. And we're privileged to have a school resource officer, Deputy Scott Shinagawa. And brand new this year to CV is the wellness, which is an actual environment where students and staff can go to restore themselves and sort of get recalibrated during the hectic day. Mr. Gallimore? How to contact your counselor. We are structured by last name for a couple of reasons, so that we travel with you and your student for 4 years. By the time it gets to be college recommendation time, we really know our students well. Another advantage is we know the family. So if you've got a sibling coming up, we already knew your brother or sister. Miss Bomar is the counselor for B, C, and D. Karen Carlson, I'm the counselor for A, N, O, P, and Q. Janelle Evans for F, G, H, J, and Z. Annette Harapetian for R, S, and T. Janet Hong for I, K, and L. And Lois Sheridan for E, M, and U through Y. We want to encourage you to be like a frequent flyer at our CVHS counseling page. Ms. Hong and Mrs. Bomar do a fantastic job of posting important information there, current information there. So check it out frequently. For you students that are, if you could go back, Mr. Gallimore, for you students who are attending tonight, we do have a walk-in policy. We encourage you to drop in and meet us and see us during snack, lunch, before and after school. For the parents that are walking, we want to encourage you to make an appointment through the phone or through email. Go ahead, Mr. Gallimore. I'm going to read a quote that Janelle Evans and I wrote a couple of years ago to get funding for the Wellness Center. And it sort of depicts our community and the need for time management and academic support. As a community, we care deeply about equipping our children to succeed in competition for admission to selective universities. But the dark side of this has converted the high school years into a stressful, hyper-pressurized time period that can have a damaging effect on our teens. Those students who are able to keep up are exhausted, to say nothing of the many students who've fallen behind and are marginalized or excluded from that process. The student's relation to learning for its own sake is lost in the quest for the perfect transcript. The mental health struggles of our campus are both unique and enormous. And Ms. Evans and I wrote that before the pandemic. So I want you guys to be aware, students and parents, of all that you juggle and all that you balance during the week. And you can see on the left, 7 hours per day, 5 days a week of classes, 7 classes on a block schedule in 90-minute chunks. You've got extracurricular stuff, jobs, sports, clubs, volunteering, homework, your household duties, taking care of younger siblings. And, you know, it's very important to pencil in relaxation time. The need for recreation, especially post-pandemic, is huge. So find the things that give you joy and put them in your day planner just like you would a homework assignment. It's really important to organize yourself because you do have so much on your plate. It's important to use a planner, whether it's a digital or an analog planner is not important if you like to write things down or if you like to use your phone. One of the things that students have been doing this year with the odd even schedule is having a red backpack and a blue backpack, so you've got all the right stuff on the right day. You want to continually check the portal and contact your teachers with any questions. You can check and see what homework assignments are missing. You want to use our tutoring, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. It's free. And you want to keep talking to your parents, your counselors, your teachers, and your friends. It's not a weakness to reach out if you're feeling overwhelmed. Mr. Gallimore? So this is, on the left is the slide of our help centers. These are staffed by credentialed teachers in the area of math, English, world languages, and science. So if you need help, maybe you need something explained from a teacher other than the one you have, or maybe you just need to have something checked before you hand it in, please use our help centers. The good thing about block schedule is sometimes you have 2 days in between the time the homework was assigned and the time you need to turn it in. So we want to encourage you to use the help center in the off day so that when you hand your homework in, you get the maximum amount of points. We also have a tutor match program here at CV where you can get a free individual tutor that is a student that most likely has had that class and that book and that content a year or so before you've had it. So that can be really, really useful and handy. And the students who volunteer to do that are good students, and they communicate well, and they're getting community service hours. So we want to encourage you to use both prongs of that tutor and help and figure out which one is the right fit for you. Mr. Gallimore? So as I said, the balance is really, really important right now. Coming off 18 months of distance learning, and many of our teachers and staff expect us to just hit the ground running. And it's been very difficult. You've been through very many changes. Many of you have lost relatives. I want to invite you to think about what your losses were during these strange 18 months. And I want you to take your re-entry into full-time school slowly and carefully, to be sure to forgive others and forgive yourself. Really put self-care on the front part of your plate. Think about what fills you with joy and renewal. And then remember, don't forget the physical stuff, eating well, exercising, sleeping well. And again, it's so important to reach out if you're feeling overwhelmed. Next slide, Mr. Gallimore. Along the left, you'll see some specific help resources that you can use at night, anytime. Most of these text lines and phone lines are open 24/7. Some of them are specific. The bottom one, Trevor, is for gay, lesbian, trans, and questioning students. Some of them are specific to suicide. If you're having thoughts or ideation, you might want to use these. Some of them are just if you like to text rather than talk. We also have a student wellness services through the Glendale Unified School District. It's so important to reach out when you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious. That's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. And another thing that we don't mention on the slide that's so important here, if you have a friend who's in trouble, if you have a friend who's in need, who's suicidal or cutting or using, it's not betraying them to get a grown-up involved, to tell one of your counselors. That's actually not ratting your friend out, but actually helping them out. So we also have, in addition to the counselors, we have the health office if you're feeling ill. The APs are not all about discipline. We have the wellness, and we have 2 wonderful school psychologists that can also chat with you on campus. And if you could back up again. And I'm gonna introduce Ms. Janelle Evans at this point. She's gonna cover some additional slides. Thank you for your attention. Okay.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and dive into what it means to earn a CV diploma, really what goes into developing a post-high school plan. And obviously what goes along with that is being able to know and develop goals as well. So we have this posted on our school website. Again, if you go to the CV counseling page, this is available for you. I really believe that this is something that's an important tool, because when we're talking about balance, when we're talking about, our personal lives, what our goals are, what we're aiming for, it really helps to have a map. And that's not to say that this wouldn't change or be altered over the years, but just to have a starting point, something that you can look ahead and really see where it is that you're going. So if you download this, you can enter in whichever grade you're at right now. You can enter in the courses that you took or are taking in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and then start looking, forward in the coming years to see where you might be headed and what you might want to do. Again, I would encourage you to actually fill this out. It's not written in stone, so it can definitely be changed. It can be changed multiple times. But I would really encourage you to take advantage of this. You can also, once you've completed it, you can bring it into your counselor and kind of give them an idea about what it is you'd like to do. And we can go over that with you. We can discuss with you maybe some different options, maybe some things you haven't thought about, because believe it or not, there are a lot of different things that you can do with the schedules. So one of the things that we want to be talking to you about is kind of your grades. And, the 5-week grades came out just like a week and a half ago, and gives you the first idea and look into how you're performing in the first 5 weeks of the school year. Needless to say, we're coming back to a more traditional form of schooling, but there are some differences, and there's a lot that's going on right now. So if you weren't doing as well as you thought you'd be doing, and it's something that you're just struggling readjusting to, understand you're not alone. This is a difficult adjustment, and there are so many changes. There are so many things that we're trying to get used to. But really all you can do is reach out, ask for help, and we're here for you. We're here to discuss with you what you're struggling with, but please remember to be patient with yourself and give yourself time. So when we're talking about the grades, each semester there are 4 grading periods. Only one of those grading periods, which is the semester report, goes on your transcript, okay? And so those are your final grades. They're given to you at the very end. There are then quarter reports, and those are given halfway through each of the semesters. Those quarter reports are official grades, so every single one of your teachers has to report a grade at the quarter report. And but this does not go onto your transcript, okay? They are considered official grades, but they don't end up on your transcript. Then there are 2 what are called progress reports. Those are at the 5-week mark, so right before the 10-week, which is the quarter, and 5 weeks after the quarter report. So that's considered the 15-week. Now, a lot of your teachers will end up posting grades, even if you have an A, B, or C in their classes, but the teachers do not have to post grades at the 5 or 15-week grading period unless you're earning a D or an F in those classes. So keep in mind that at that 5 and 15-week grading report, if you don't see grades on there, it's because you have a C or better in those classes. So it's not something I want you to worry about, but just something to keep in mind. So something that's important to really understand are the requirements, not just to graduate, but also for college admissions, okay? Now, the college admissions requirements that I'm going to go over, these are what are called the A to G requirements. So they're the requirements that both the UCs, University of California system, and the California state schools, these are the requirements that they expect you to hit for admission. This does not cover every private school. It does not cover every out-of-state school. So that's just something that's really good to keep in mind. For the most part though, if you meet the A to G requirements, you will meet the majority of the entrance requirements for other universities outside of both the UC or CSU system. So excuse me, a couple things that I want to talk to you about in terms of the grades. So semester grades, A's, B's, C's, and D's will give you credit for high school graduation. It will allow you to meet the graduation requirements, okay? But for most four-year universities, you have to have a minimum of a C grade in order for them to consider you meeting their entrance requirement, okay? So it's very important to remember that if your goal is to be eligible for a university, you want to keep your grades at A's, B's, and C's. Now, notice that I did not say that you have to get all A's in order to go on to a four-year university or say, or qualify to be admitted or be successful, okay? So as long as you've got those A's, B's, and C's, you will meet the entrance requirements. Now, in terms of the D grades, so the D grades those are courses and grades that you would want to repeat and make up, depending on if you're using that course in order to satisfy one of the A to G requirements. Once a course is made up, the lower grade will be, the credit will be removed, and the new grade, the higher grade, will be issued the credit, okay? So in other words, the D would not factor into the GPA, and if you got a C, the C, to replace it, the C would be factored into the GPA, okay? You cannot repeat a single course more than one time. It's also really important to know that you can only repeat a D or an F grade. So you cannot repeat a grade of an A, B, or C, okay? Grades of F do not give you points at all. So it doesn't allow you to meet a graduation requirement and does not allow you to meet the A to G requirements. So when we're going over and we're looking at these requirements, so you'll notice that the chart is on the right side of the screen, but it's also, if you want like a sheet of this, that you can actually go onto our website and print this out. So for the purposes of social sciences history, to graduate from GUSD, you have to complete 2.5 years. So that will cover world history in 10th grade, US history in 11th grade, and then government in your senior year. The economics that was taken along with government, that actually is filtered down, and it is a separate requirement. So that course in and of itself it's not considered a history or social science course, okay? For the meeting the A to G requirements, they require 2 years of the history, okay? So again, 2.5 years high school graduation, 2 years to meet the A to G. For English, they both require you to complete 4 years of English in order to meet the graduation requirements and the university entrance requirements. Under the math category, this is one of the places where it's a little bit different. So in order to graduate from CV or from a GUSD high school, you have to complete those 2 years of math. So the integrated math 1 and integrated math 2. That being said, we definitely want you to continue to take math, because no matter what you do beyond high school, it's important to keep your math skills up. You don't have to be the strongest math person, but definitely if you don't use your skills, you're going to end up losing them over time. And we want you to be able to go out into the world and have those basic math skills there and ready for you to use. When we're talking about meeting the A to G requirements, you do have to complete 3 years or 4 in order to go to a 4-year university. So 3 years is the requirement, and then again, the 4th year is highly recommended. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit different when we're talking about sciences. So for the 11th graders who are out there listening right now, you still fall under the old graduation requirements, which were 2 years of a science. Okay, so your physical science and life science. If you're taking a science this year, which is definitely what we encourage you to do, if you're taking that 3rd year of a science, that will actually count as your elective, as part of your elective credits. Okay, but for the 9th and the 10th graders, you are under the new science curriculum with the new science requirements for graduation, which is the 3 years, and those 3 years have to be specific courses. So the living earth, the chemistry and the earth systems, and the physics in the universe. Those 3 courses have to be completed in order to graduate. Now, when you go and you shift over to the A to G requirements, regardless of which grade you're in, so 9th through 11th, it's the 2 years that are required in order to meet those A to G requirements. And they just have to be different disciplines, right? So you could use the living earth, you can use the chemistry, or the physics. So you have to use a combination of those two. So in other words, let's say that you get a C or better in living earth, and let's say you get a C or better in the chemistry, but the physics you struggle with, you end up getting a D. If you get the D, you're meeting the graduation requirements, but you are still meeting the A to G requirements because you have C's or better in both living earth and chemistry. So it's something that I don't want you to get discouraged if you struggle in one subject, thinking that maybe now you don't have a shot at meeting those A to G requirements, okay? In terms of the language other than English, it is not a requirement for graduation, okay? Again, let me repeat that. It is not a requirement for graduation. However, if you want to meet those A to G requirements, you have to complete no less than 2 years of the same language. So in other words, if you were taking Spanish, you can't take 1 year of Spanish and 1 year of French. That will not satisfy the requirement. It has to be 2 years of Spanish, or 2 years of French, or 2 years of Korean or German. Those are the 4 different languages that we have on our campus. Now, in terms of the visual and performing arts, so you need a year of a visual or performing art in order to graduate from CV. You also need 1 year in order to meet those A to G requirements, okay? And then when we go to kind of that additional graduation requirements and the additional A to G requirements, the A to G requirements, you're gonna see something called a college prep elective. And essentially what this means is that you can use any course that is considered a college preparatory course that meets that criteria for a college preparatory course through the university system. You can use that in order to satisfy the college prep elective. So let's say you take 4 years of math. Your first 3 years can satisfy that math requirement. That 4th year of math can be considered a college prep elective. Let's say you take 3 years of a language other than English. That 2 years can satisfy the language requirement for A to G. That 3rd year can count as that college prep elective, okay? When you then shift over to the rest of the graduation requirements, you have to complete the 1 semester of health. You have to complete no less than 2 years, so 20 credits of PE. There's that 1 semester of economics that is paired with the government in your senior year. And then in terms of the elective requirements, it changes depending on what graduating class you're in. So if you are in the graduating class of 2023, which is our juniors right now, you need to complete 75 elective credits in order to graduate, okay? It seems like a lot, but what you'll realize is that by the time you're in your junior year, the majority of the courses that you're taking are actually going to filter down under that elective category. So you actually complete that requirement really quickly after your sophomore year. And then when you look at the general elective requirements for the freshman and sophomore this year, you'll notice that that's 65 credits. The reason for the drop is that additional year of science that's required for the 9th and 10th graders this year, that's not required for the 11th graders. So just in case you're wondering about that. Either way, total graduation requirements is 220. Okay, so that's not gonna matter what grade level you're in. If this is something that's confusing, which I would completely understand, again, feel free to reach out to your counselor. We are happy to sit down with you and go over this stuff. We really want to have these conversations. So when we're talking about those grades and the different GPAs, what you'll probably notice in your student portal or in the parent portal is that there are multiple different types of GPAs that are listed. So there's the cumulative weighted GPA. The cumulative weighted GPA is going to be all of the courses that you have taken in high school, all of them. And it's going to incorporate and give you the weighted grade point. So if you're taking AP or honors courses, that extra grade point that you get is going to be calculated into that cumulative weighted. The cumulative weighted GPA, that is what is posted on the CV transcripts. When we're talking about the cumulative unweighted, essentially it's the exact same thing. So it's all of your courses added up, but it does not include the AP or honors point, okay? When we're talking about any of the CSU or the UC, to keep in mind, this only includes the A to G courses taken during 10th and 11th grades, okay? So it does not include all of the courses that you've earned grades in for 9th grade. Also keep in mind that the maximum amount of honors or AP grade points added is 8. So you cannot, so let's say, and only 2 of those semesters points can come from 10th grade. So in other words, if you take 2 AP or 2 honors classes in 10th grade, only 2 of those 4 points, right? So each semester earns a point, okay? But you're taking 2 classes, only 2 of those points are going to be taken from 10th. In 11th grade, they are willing to take the other 6. Okay, but again, no more than 8. Then we talk about the Cal Grant. And the Cal Grant GPA, it will include your academic courses taken in 10th and 11th grade, that it also include the summer school grades, but it does not include any PE courses. It also does not include any courses that you may have repeated. Okay, now it's important to remember and keep in mind that Glendale Unified School District does not rank students. So they got rid of the ranking of students several years ago. There is no plan to bring that back. So if you see that there is no rank on a transcript or on your portal, that is why, is because GUSD doesn't rank. So this is just a slide explaining how to calculate your grade point average. So in other words, you need to take your grades and you convert them to points. I'm not going to go ahead, I'm not going to go through exactly how to do this. The slide is there. It's definitely something that you can go and look up later. But this is something that, just in case you feel the need and you want to calculate it on your own, you are more than welcome to, again, look up the slide, refer back to it, and recalculate your GPA. So this is like one of my favorite slides. If you know me, you know that I am super into helping students maintain and kind of create balance in their lives and really understand what it is to create that balance for them as the individual, not in comparing themselves to everybody else, but really to understand themselves. So one of the things we do when we talk to students about really kind of being able to look at their life beyond high school is that we want them to give themselves the opportunity to explore every option. We want them to make decisions that are best for them personally as the individual. A lot of students do have siblings or cousins or parents, and you know, unknowingly they almost, if they have people that are above them, there is that pressure to live up to something else, to somebody else. Same thing, maybe if they're the oldest, they feel like they're kind of paving that path. And so there's this additional pressure to be that, you know, perfect model. And so I like to really bring this back to that their life is about them, and it's about making these decisions on what's best for them. And really to then be able to commit to a plan and to follow through. It's super important to me that a student realizes what their greatest potential is. And they might not know right this second. It's gonna take us all really rallying behind our students to talk to them and to help point things out that maybe we see as strengths in them that they didn't necessarily even recognize. So part of this is if they can flip the script and if they can start to think of, okay, what is it that I want to do after high school? What is it that I'm thinking about? Again, it doesn't mean that it's not going to change, but what is it that they really are interested in doing? And then come back and we can start looking at, okay, based on that information at that moment, how is it that we can set up their courses for graduation? What is it that we can set up in terms of helping them pave that path so that they can meet those goals? So when they're looking into some of those things, we want them to consider, what is your academic readiness? What are your financial resources? What's your financial standing within the family? What are their academic and, again, career interests, and what are their future goals? And sometimes it's difficult to create a future goal if you don't know what you want to do. So I try to help students to really kind of explore and figure out what it is that they might be interested in, and kind of release that pressure of they have to know exactly what they want to do, because they don't, and life changes and things shift. But again, really encouraging them to explore and have fun with that exploration process. So in terms of what do CV grads do after graduation? So about 40% of CV grads from the class of 2021 attended a community college. About 43% attended a four-year university, and about 9% chose a different option. So these options can range anywhere from the university or the college pathway to more of a trade school, which is going to really focus on that specific skill, to getting a job right after high school and just entering the workforce. Some of them do kind of a combination of them. Maybe they choose to join the military. There are several different branches of the military that our students explore. Or maybe they choose to take a gap year and not continue with school right away, and again, kind of still enter that exploration phase. When we're talking about career exploration, we give students a whole plethora of websites that they can log on to. We really encourage you guys as students to go on, take career interest surveys. Again, this is a whole part of that, figuring out who you are, figuring what your interests are, even if they change, and just diving into it and just kind of accepting things and taking them as they come. But we really want you to create lists and be open to different ideas and different options, because there are so many things out there that are just kind of waiting to be discovered. So at CV, we have developed, and the district has really been focusing on developing a CTE pathway, different CTE pathways at the different high schools. And at CV, we have multiple different pathways that are available. Typically, what it means to be on a pathway is that you take a series of courses within that same field of interest over multiple years of high school. So you could start in 9th grade or start in 10th grade and still complete a 3-year series before you graduate. But it ranges in things from the graphic communications and software systems and development through the computer science program, all the way down to patient care with the sports medicine and the Air Force ROTC when we're talking about operations and transportation. So a whole plethora of CTE pathways. And then the last thing that I want to discuss is this idea of taking community college courses while you're in high school. Now, I completely understand that the district has just upped the amount of courses that they want you to take to 7 courses, and that's a lot. So this whole idea of adding in an 8th course to take a community college course, for most students really isn't going to be the best option right now. But I do want you to know that this is there in case it's something you want to explore. So there are 2 different high school programs. There's dual enrollment and there's Jumpstart. Both of them are high school programs. Both of them are offered through GCC. The main difference between the 2 of them is that dual enrollment is essentially a contract between Glendale Unified School District and Glendale Community College, where Glendale Community College's instructors come onto the high school campuses and they offer a specific courses that students can take. The students who are taking those dual enrollment courses are able to earn college credit for it, but they can also earn high school credit for those courses. They are entered onto the high school transcript. With the Jumpstart courses, they do start their college transcript while they're in high school, but those courses are not placed on the high school transcript. So that is really one of the main differences. The one thing I will tell you is that it's really not a big deal if you want to take a jumpstart class because it's not offered through dual enrollment. Either way, when you go to apply to colleges, you're going to put those courses, you're going to list them on your application as GCC courses, and it's still going to be factored into your college application. So regardless of which one you do, just keep in mind that either way, you are getting college credit for it. It is going on to your college application. And then for the next section, we are actually going to have Ms. Janet Hong present to us. She's absolutely amazing. I have had an absolute pleasure working with her just, over the last 10, 12 weeks or so. And so I just want to welcome her and introduce her to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Evans, for the warm welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So I'm going to be going over the educational options after high school. So I'm going to be mostly talking about community colleges, four-year universities, both public and private, and some trade and tech and art schools. So I'm going to start first off with the community colleges. Next slide, please. So the community colleges in California, this is a great option for our students. Just like Ms. Evans had presented earlier, 48% of our students go to community college. So, PCC and GCC both have really great transfer programs. So some students, especially after COVID, are just really not ready to go off to a four-year university. So if this is something you're really interested in, I really highly recommend community colleges. It allows kids to explore what they want to do before they go off to college. It allows families to save a ton of money because, well, an associate's degree usually costs around $1,200, but right now with the California College Promise grant, you can go to college for free and then transfer into a UC or a CSU or any other college that you would like. So I really highly recommend the different programs. So yeah, and then next slide, please. If you decide, if this is something that you're really interested in and you decide that community college is something that you really want to do, and you're like, okay, well, how do I, just like high school, they have like an honors or a scholars program where it gives you a little bit of an edge when you apply or transfer to a four-year university or towards your bachelor's degree. And so Glendale Community College and Pasadena City College both have these honors program, and you can reach out to both of these colleges and to find out more information. But these programs for Glendale Community College, it's an academic program with 15 units of honors general education, and it gives an opportunity for an enhanced consideration for admissions. So again, if you are interested, please check out the websites and reach out to a community college counselor. Next slide. So going into the four-year public universities, California has two options, the UC campuses and the CSU campuses. There are currently 9 UC campuses. Technically there's 10, but one of them is a graduate school only. So for our high school students, there's only 9 UC campuses, and there are 23 Cal State campuses. One of the main things that I want to kind of point out is when you're considering a school, it's also really important to consider where these places are located at. That's why it's kind of just like, if you get a moment, just a chance to just look at where everything is associated with in terms of where we're located right now. It's a kind of a way for you to gauge whether or not like students want to go there. So for example, a lot of kids are like, they want to say like, oh, I want to go to UCLA or UC Berkeley, or I want to go to UC Santa Barbara. And a lot of these places, it depends on where it's located. So make sure that you guys are, that you're visiting the campuses, seeing the area, seeing if this place, this school is right for you. So if I could move on to the next slide, or if you can move on to the next slide. So in terms of our four-year public universities, the major difference between the UC campuses and the CSU is I want to talk about focus. So UC campuses are usually more research-based, while CSUs are more practical application-based. That does not necessarily mean that if you go to a CSU, you can't pursue research, you can't pursue graduate school. So UC campuses usually, they're a little bit more of like theoretical, or they're studying a specific area to potentially go on to grad school, to pursue more education. Whereas in CSU, traditionally was more about learning a specific skill. So an example would be California's Northridge, CSUN, has a really good teaching credentialing program. And so, a lot of prospective teachers go to or want to go to CSUN because they have an amazing program. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're locked into either one or the other. So for the UC campus and the CSU campuses, the requirements are different. So looking at the UC campuses, the minimum GPA to apply or to be eligible is a 3.0 GPA. That does not mean that obviously you're going to get in, but it is the minimum requirement. I know that, and I really want to emphasize this because GPA has become such a monster in current times, and it's not the GPA is not going to be the only factor, and I'm going to talk about that afterwards, but it's not as important to just only pursue like a 5.0 or a 4.5 or I don't even know if a 5.0 is possible, but a GPA is important. The minimum is a 3.0, but it's not going to be the give all and get all. The UCs also have the A through G requirements, of which Ms. Evans covered. If there are questions about that, that's also all the A through G requirements are listed on our CVHS website, so please check that out. The SATs and ACT scores will no longer be used for admissions decision at all. So they will not be reincorporating the SATs or the ACTs. In the future, they do plan on having an alternate test and it's still to be determined. So for juniors and for juniors, currently, we don't think that you're going to need an SAT score or an ACT score for sure for the UCs. I've already covered that it's more research-based, and tuition-wise, the average expense every year for a UC is around $35,000. The CSUs, the minimum GPA requirement did go up from a 2.0 to a 2.5. So it was 2.0 before the pandemic, now it's 2.5. The reason why is because they've eliminated the SATs and ACTs as an admissions decisions requirement. One of the major differences between UCs and CSUs when applying, the UCs have personal insight questions or PIQs. They also have an admissions essay. So they get to learn a little bit more about the students through different questions, through learning about them through their essays. However, the CSUs don't really have that requirement. Because of that, they've raised the minimum GPA requirement, but also each CSU has different requirements for the specific campuses. So if you're a student or if you're a parent and your child is interested in going to a CSU campus, please make sure to do your research and check out those specific campus websites for additional admissions requirements, because they might have one. So they might require, like if you are majoring if you're going more towards math, they might have a specific math requirement. They might be looking at only the English, like if you're looking to major in English and they're only going to be looking at maybe the English requirements or any type of like more literary arts and literature focused classes. So please just make sure to check it out in case if this is something you're interested in. The expenses for the CSUs is around $25,000. So right there, 10,000 a year makes a difference. But again, just to going back, 2 years free of community college, and you could transfer into the UCs or CSUs as well. So yes, if I can have the next slide, please. So just going back, like I mentioned, the CSUs don't really have a personal insight question or the PIQs. They don't have a section for students to be able to answer questions and whatnot, or have an admissions letter. The admissions essay, sorry. The UC, but the UCs do. So when you're applying to the UCs, there are different ways in which the UC reviews an applicant. And this is to speak to the fact that they do not only look at GPA. Grade point average is something that they look at. They do look at test scores, but again, this is not going to be used for the class of 2022. They look at the performances in and a number of courses beyond minimum A through G requirements. So they're not going to be just looking at, hey, you know, like, oh, this student just did they did their 2 years of math. Well, they're going to be looking at, well, did this student, you know, pursue beyond just the 2 years of math? Not technically whether or not they're taking all APs, but did they take their, you know, did they continue with math? That is also considered academic rigor. So again, they'll look at the UC approved honor courses and advanced courses. So they only look up to 8 semesters. I want to reiterate that. So you're only really looking at 2 honors or AP classes a year in your 10th and 11th grade that they're going to count towards a GPA. So if you're aiming for that 4.5, it's not really going to matter because they're only really looking at those two courses per year in terms of just the GPA. The other thing that they're going to be looking at is the eligibility in the local context. So they're going to be just looking at what is at CV, what kind of students are here, and what was offered to the CV, and how much did the kids take advantage of it, right? And they're going to be comparing to where they are right now, right? They're also going to be looking at the quality of the senior year program of study. So because they're not, you know, by the time that senior year rolls around, UC applications are due by November 30th, they still have to finish their senior year. So they're going to be looking at, well, what courses are they taking? Not what they're getting, but how much are they challenging themselves? Are they interested? What's their, you know, what's their curiosity level? How much are how thirsty are they for knowledge? So they're kind of looking at that, those types of things for your senior year. Academic opportunities in California high schools. So what academic opportunities were given to the students and how much did they take advantage of them? And then outstanding performances in one or more academic subject areas. So for example, maybe a student isn't really strong in English. I was that kid. I really just struggled with English and literature, and I was not a huge fan of history. But when it came to math and science, I did really well. And so that was something that when I applied to my colleges, I applied for STEM, right? And so they looked a lot. They're going to be looking at my math rigor. They're going to be looking at my science rigor. So that's something that they're going to consider on the academic end. On the non-academic end is, well, what kind of, what achievements have they had? What kind of awards have they had? What kind of community services are they a part of? And one thing that I want to mention about community service, and I feel like a lot of kids are like, well, I have to do community service. Well, why do you want to do community service? Because I should. Well, more than you should, I always tell students, do you want to? Is there something that you're passionate about? Do you like something? And that's something that you should be kind of looking into, not just how do I look good, but what do I like is really, really important. That's going to make a huge difference when you're actually writing your essays, when you're writing your PIQs, when you're letting the UCs know what kind of student you are. And then participation in educational preparation programs, academic accomplishment in light of experiences. So that's going to be anything outside of the house, right? I mean, outside of school, right? Were there certain circumstances that happened to you, right? That even though, despite these challenges, you were able to succeed. And then your geographic location. So no single factor determines admissions, right? So when I went to college, you're going to see a range. I mean, when kids go to college, you're going to see a range from students who have like a 3.2 all the way to a 4.8, right? So I'm not 4.8, we're 4.5. So it's not, the GPA is not going to be the say all and, you know, of whether or not you get into a UC. So yes, moving on. Next slide, please. Private four-year colleges vary in strength and focus and experiences. So please, when you guys are applying for four-year colleges, for private colleges, please make sure to visit each of those websites. See what their admissions requirements are, because they differ from school to school. Their GPA requirements all differ. Their testing requirements all differ. SATs and ACTs are optional for some schools. So just please make sure to check those websites. If you are eligible for free lunches, please make sure to ask your counselor for a SAT or ACT fee waiver if you do not already have one. If you already have one, you only need to do it once. So once you already have a fee waiver, please, you don't have to ask for another one. But if you don't have, if you've never taken the SATs or the ACTs and you need a fee waiver, please make sure to go and visit your counselor. Again, the application deadlines are vary by college. Some of them, they have early action. Some of them have early decision. They have regular decision. They have early action 1 and 2. They have, you know, general admissions 1 and 2. Some of them have rolling admissions, meaning that it's constantly open. So just please make sure to check that out. And then there are more than 2,000 private colleges. Local colleges are Chapman, USC, Loyola, Pepperdine, Laverne, and Whittier. So yeah. In terms of art and tech trade schools, please make sure to check out that website, trade-schools.net, to see what kind of trade schools are in the area, what are offered. This is a huge opportunity for students who may not necessarily want to go to college. It's not something that they like or they enjoy, but maybe they're really good with their hands. Maybe they're very artistic. Maybe they're really good with, you know, some kids, they don't like the math of engineering, but they like the hands-on. So make sure, and like the automotive technician, the web designers, the artists, the fashion designers, all of that is something that is very valuable, and can allow a student to shine when they're adults. So please make sure to check that out if that's something that you know, that is good, that is right for the student. And then next slide, please. So college admission testing today, again, there's test blind. Scores are not accepted and will not be used to evaluate applications for admissions. This is the UCs and currently the CSUs. We don't know if that's going to be the same for the CSUs in 2020 for the class of 2023. But for now, it is blind. It might be test optional later. Test optional is you have the option to submit. It is not necessary. But some colleges, some private colleges still do require it. So again, please make sure to check out the college websites to get more accurate information. I think basically that's the gist of it. There are test blind schools, test optional, and there's some still require it. So just make sure to check out those websites. Whew. And then finally, financial aid options. Please make sure, you know, that if college is something that's going to be difficult financially, there are a lot of, you know, financial aid options, regardless of whether or not you are going to be pursuing community college, the UCs, the CSUs, private colleges, whether or not you feel like your parents make too much money, it doesn't matter. Please, when you get to that point in senior year, everyone should be filling out that FAFSA because plans change. Your thoughts can change, your feelings can change, and you want to make sure that you have those options open and available. But here are some of the things that are open to for scholarship options that everyone should please check out. And then I'm going to toss it over to Ms. Evans. She's going to be covering the final section. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hong. All right, so we're now at the point in our presentation where we are going to just kind of present to you some additional information and resources. Nothing that we are going to go over in super detail, but I do think that this is some really important information that you may like to know, just in terms of kind of planning for the future, leads into maybe some of those financial discussions that we just heard about from Ms. Hong. So we'll start here. The first piece of information that I know we have gotten questions about has to do with the PSATs. And so the PSAT is actually going to be offered on Wednesday, October 13th. It is being offered to our 10th and 11th graders. In terms of bell schedules and details for that day, that is coming. So make sure to check the CV bulletin for more information about that. The 9th graders on that day will not have school. So October 13th for you 9th graders, sleep in, enjoy your day. You do not have to wake up and get to school to take any tests. So just kind of enjoy it. For the 12th graders, you don't have school that day, but you do have the opportunity to attend college application workshops. So your counselors will be posting information about that in your counselor's Google Classroom. So make sure you're checking out your counselor's Google Classroom. That's actually for everybody, just so you can look into that. In terms of more information about the PSATs, we did post on there a video that you can watch and just some links if you want to kind of check into that. Ms. Hong talked about community service, and quite honestly, I think that she said it perfectly. Not really wanting students to feel pressure to do community service if this is something that they're super uncomfortable with. That being said, I think community service is a really just great way to give back, give to others, be able to show the compassion, empathy, and really develop all of those skills. Especially communication. One of the things that we tend to struggle with these days is we tend to find ourselves really insulated within ourselves. And so whether it's computers or TV or our phones, social media, what have you, we find ourselves just kind of into ourselves. And so I think community service is a really great way to share with other people, see kind of common experiences that you have with others, common interests. So I do think that in that way, community service is a really great opportunity. Keep in mind that community service is not a graduation requirement. So this isn't something that we want you to do just to do. We really do want this to be something that your heart is into, and you're seeking these experiences. There is more information about the community service and how to go about that, how to see the guidelines, how to check the database for ideas in terms of places to volunteer, as well as where to submit your hours. So if you go onto the website, whether it's within this presentation or on the school website in general, there are multiple places where you can get info about community service and involvement. So this is just the CVHS school profile. Again, your counselor has access to this. So if you want a copy of it, you can feel free to reach out. We should have it posted actually on our school website as well. So you can go on there and check it out. It's pretty much just accumulation of data about our school. And so, yeah, something that's available. So this slide and the next slide, it really gives you just kind of recommendations by grade level things that you can look into when we're talking about post-high school planning. So again, nothing that I feel the need to go over specifically line by line, but the things that I'm going to highlight and just kind of reiterate with you all is the importance of being able to connect your experiences in the classroom with your experiences, your goals, potential career interests outside of the classroom. That's really going to help kind of drive that motivation. It's going to give you an idea about, okay, this is where I want to go. How do I get there? And so, of course, going and, doing visits to different campuses, doing visits and interviewing people in different careers that you may be interested in. These are all things that you can do. However, I don't want you to pack your schedule so much that it becomes very daunting, because it can definitely become a daunting process. So take a look at these recommendations for 9th, 10th, And then Mr. Gallimore will show you on the next slide, it's 11th grade. Check it out. But again, not something I want you to become super overwhelmed with, just some ideas for you to look over. And then this is just a list of the different four-year college application websites. Again, this is not something that you need right now, but we just give you the websites in case you happen to just want to go and kind of check it out. Maybe look into some of the different webinars and stuff. So this program I feel is important, and this kind of ties into that financial aid piece that Ms. Hong was talking about earlier. So when we're talking about, everybody can use a little bit of extra financial support when you're talking about college. Colleges are, attending is extremely expensive. And so this program, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, essentially what it is that these states in the western part of the United States have gotten together, and they've made an agreement that, like, Washington would say, okay, California, I will take X amount of your students for a reduced tuition fee. We won't charge them a full out-of-state tuition if you will take some of our students. And California's like, okay, I'm in, let's do it. So students do definitely have to qualify for this program. However, I have seen this make a huge change in students' decisions to go to colleges and where they decide to attend. Quick story, I had a student, and she, at the University of Hawaii, they had her exact major. She really wanted to focus on animal sciences because she wants to go to vet school. And then she was looking at some of the Cal State schools that had similar programs, but it wasn't specific to animal science. And she was struggling to make the decision. She brought in my office, we sat down, we looked at the financial packages for both places. And I looked at her and was like, do you realize that it's going to be cheaper for you actually to go to the University of Hawaii than to stay in California? And it was really only by us going over that and seeing how finances were going to work out that she was like, oh my gosh, that's right. And so at that point, when she gained that understanding, she ended up at the University of Hawaii, getting ready to graduate, and just a really amazing experience. So that is a student that I can tell you firsthand, this program worked out beautifully for her. So I would definitely explore the program, look into it, because it's likely going to be around for years to come. Then when we talk about college athletics, really you should start, so you should get your profile completed with the NCAA, get yourself an account, have your transcript submitted to them. Your transcript will have to be submitted to them multiple times throughout high school. But this is something that if you are interested in going to a Division I or Division II athletic university, this is the program that you need to make sure to sign up with. Again, create that account, look at it, make sure that you're meeting the coursework. I would also really highly encourage you to share your interest with your counselor. Make sure that they know that this is something that you're interested in, so we can help you determine and make sure that you're on all of those different pathways, graduation, university, NCAA, because unfortunately NCAA, it is slightly different than the A to G requirements, but we can totally help you figure that out. And again, we've got lots of links on here for you to be able to go in and do this research as well. For those students who are interested in a gap year, this program, this magazine is wonderful. And so just this whole idea of, going out and exploring different careers. What one of my nieces, she graduated 2 years ago. She started at CSUN because they had the music program. She was accepted in symphony music school. She went there, but she did have some hesitations about going there. But because it was closer to home, she decided to. After a semester, she was like, this is just not the right place for me. This is not the right school. So she actually decided to leave CSUN. She was going to start school at their local community college. She was had made the decision a little bit late. So then she took that semester off. She started back up the next year. And what she's decided is, at this time, she really wants to explore life. She really wants to kind of understand, these different career paths that she's on. So for right now, she's decided to take a gap year. And I think that, we're not used to taking a gap year, but it is a viable option and something that students really need to understand is there, because for whatever reason, everybody has, the path that's the right path for them. And so, while this is a good path for some, it's not necessarily a good path for everybody. So again, really through these conversations and figuring out what students' goals are and really what they want to do, that's really where people end up, deciding that a gap year is right for them. And then just wanted to let you know, we do have some upcoming counseling related events. So on October 7th, from 4:30 to 6:30, we really encourage you to register to attend the GUSD College and Career Fair. It's virtual again this year. We do provide you the link. This is a registration link. And so once you register, they will provide you with more information about how to actually log in between 4:30 and 6:30. You do not have to attend the full 2 hours. But again, it's just something that is there for you. It's a super easy way for you to explore what's out there without leaving your home. We also have, sorry, Mr. Gallimore. Again, October 13th, we have the PSAT for 10th and 11th graders. On December 14th, just so everybody knows, that's when signups start for the spring GCC classes. In January through March, that's when the students are going to start selecting their courses for next school year. That's when you guys are going to start. Then, we do the presentation. We're going to do a presentation at night for each grade level to go over registration information. And that's when you're going to be able to have this discussion as a family, register for your courses. And then your counselor is going to have a meeting with you individually to sit down and actually go through what your selection is. We can make adjustments. Summer school will be part of those decisions. So just know that we're going to be providing you with that support, and that is going to happen between January and March. Then between April and May, we are going to finalize your course selections for next year on the portal. Again, complete that summer school registration as well. Know that there are ongoing UC campus fall information sessions. We provide you the link on here. And then you can also meet with college reps virtually by clicking on this link. It will take you to the GUSD College and Career Division page, and they will provide you with a calendar where you can see which reps are available on which days at what times. So I really strongly encourage you to check out that opportunity as well. So for parents, for students, these are some articles that we have read through and looked at and really find to be really, really beneficial. So the first one talks about 10 tips for parents on college and career readiness for your child. We also have an article available on here, and it's called Who Submitted SAT and ACT Scores. The third link that we have on here for you is an article about 11th grade parents. It's a quick read, and I'm just going to tell you, even I don't have high schoolers. I have a second grader and a fifth grader who thinks she's almost in high school. But I'm going to tell you, reading this article, even having young kids, if you're a parent, you're going to be able to relate. And it kind of takes you through our fears that we have as parents raising kids, which if you have a child, you're definitely, it's pretty hard to be fearless when it comes to parenting. So just something that I really felt kind of applied to a life as a parent in general, but really when you have those 11th graders who are looking at making those big decisions about, applying to colleges and looking at that next step in their life, just really something that is applicable, and I think that you will get a lot out of. So if you want to check that one out, and then that very last one, it's just about college application tips. So not something that you need to, again, rush to right now, but just something that's available for you. And so I just wanted to thank you all for attending. It has been, I really have felt fortunate to be able to spend this time with you tonight. And know that, again, like Ms. Carlson said at the beginning, the presentation is going to be available on the CV website, as well as it's going to be in the video form, and we might be able to put it up there in a PDF form as well. But again, feel free to reach out to your counselors. Please, 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 if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here. We're here for the students. We're here to support you and work as part of a team towards your students moving forward. So thank you again so much for attending.